Hi everyone, I've had a lot of questions from beginners about thin upstrokes, and they say their upstrokes aren't thin enough, when actually it's not an issue of thin upstrokes, it's an issue of downstrokes. So what I want to show you is the difference in many different kinds, many brush pens. This is a super soft brush pen that I'm using, and look how thick my upstrokes are. So every brush pen is going to get softer as you use it, and it doesn't mean you can stop using it, but what you're going to do is you're going to apply a little bit more pressure so you get a nice, even, thin upstroke. Whoopsies. Okay, so let's look how I don't have to be super skinny. I'm using the side of my brush tip pen, and I'm just creating an even line. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4 squares high on my super smooth grid paper. Then when you do your downstrokes, you have to push hard enough to get that thick downstroke. A lot of you aren't pushing hard enough, and so when you do your upstrokes and downstrokes, there isn't much of a difference. The key to creating a difference in up and down strokes is focus on your downstrokes. So you're laying the whole side of the pen down on the paper. Let's try this brush pen. This is the Dream pen. Again, different brush pens have different stiffness. So this one is, I think, a fairly new one. Let's do my upstrokes. No, this one's soft as well, like this. And the downstrokes, push and get a thick downstroke. Don't be afraid to flex that brush tip and get that thick downstroke going, okay? So light up. And if you find it's skippy or like this, that means you are trying too hard to make it thin. With the thick tip, you just need to make it nice and even and make your downstroke nice and thick, and then you'll have a nice difference between the two. So here's an underturn. You have thick and thin. If you aren't pressing hard enough, your underturns are going to look like this, and we don't want that. So push hard, release pressure, and draw a nice thin upstroke, which doesn't have to be super skinny. Let's take a look at the small brush tip pen. Everybody loves the small brush tip pen, but I find what beginners do is they have a harder time having thick and thin lines. The small brush tip pen, we're going to do a much smaller stroke, and you have to have a very light touch for this light upstroke. It is easier sometimes because it's a bit stiffer. And now let's push down. Don't be afraid to push down and get a thick downstroke. The same concept applies with the small brush tip pen. If you are see this, I didn't release, and it is not, if you are not pushing down and transitioning, you will not get a thick and a thin line. So for the small brush pen, you really have to focus on that downstroke and releasing, because the flex is, the pen tip is the brush tip rather, is much smaller, and so you will not get thick and thin lines if you don't push and release properly. So all you have to do is practice the alternating strokes like this, and then I think you will see a difference creating those thick and thin lines. So the exercise I want you to do, if you have a problem distinguishing between your two lines with either side of the brush pen, is I want you to do an upstroke and a downstroke, and an upstroke and a downstroke. Your goal is to space them same distance apart and the same angle, and see a thick and a thin line. Look at the difference in my thicks and thins. Okay, so don't be afraid about pushing on that brush tip pen, and do this practice, and I think you'll be happy with the results, and you will see your thick strokes and thin strokes come to life. Thanks for watching.